So today we're going to be breaking down the body language of Megyn Kelly and Donald Trump in their interview. One of the things you need to realize every time you're doing a breakdown of someone's nonverbals is you have to have their baseline information. So as we're looking at Donald Trump today, one of the things I want you to keep in mind is that Donald Trump often looks over to the left when he's trying to remember things. That's an important baseline cue. In addition to that, normally he's a very big gesticulator, and you'll see a big deviation from that in the video we're about to watch. Let's get started.
Thank you for sitting down with me.
Thank you very much. My honor.
Been a long 9 months.
It has been a long time. I agree.
I want to ask you about the beginning of your campaign. There had to be a moment on stage at a campaign rally or one night after a win where it occurred to you, I could actually be the president. When was that?
Well, I think the debates were really a big thing. And not to bring up an unpleasant debate, but, you know, that first debate was pretty amazing, and 24 million people watching it, a record on cable television.
Okay, right there, I want you to think about what Donald Trump just said. 24 million viewers, a record on cable television. So he's already priming us verbally to let us know just how important he is. So the news network didn't bring in 24 million viewers, Donald Trump did. This is one of the things that he does best. He verbally primes people to let them know that he's a significant portion of the presidency candidates. Now that's true, he is. He is the person who's bringing it in, but he repeats it over and over and over. So as we watch and listen to Donald, we'll hear that he's the one who constantly brings in all the viewers for the presidential debates.
And I think that meant something. I think that first debate meant something because I felt very, very comfortable with the subject.
The next thing I want you to notice is this is something he doesn't do either. He normally does not do a steeple like this. When you do this kind of a steeple, it's telling someone that you feel powerful, right? But it's more powerful if you do it upwards. So to see him keeping his hands down, which is not like him because normally he's moving his hands around, you start to notice automatically he's really thinking about his movements. He's really making sure that his movements are controlled. The next gesture he does is the palms down gesture. And whenever you see this, you know it's coming from somebody who feels really powerful. And of course, we know Donald is a powerful man. So recognize this gesture alone indicates that somebody is a dominant individual and that they feel very confident in about what they're saying.
Comfortable with the subject, and I felt very comfortable with the people I was competing against.
Let's talk a little bit about litigation, because you have threatened to sue many people in the course of the campaign. But of course, if you wind up president, you're not going to be able to do that either.
Well,
can you go 4 years without threatening to sue anybody?
Well,
Over the next few seconds, I want you to look at Donald's behavior. Not only does he take his eye contact and deviate it from left to right, but he also does what's called a one-sided shoulder shrug. This is what it looks like. When someone does that, they're telling you they're not really confident in their statement. So in addition to moving away from his normal baseline eye contact of looking to the left, he looks to the right and he does a one-sided shoulder shrug. This is an indication that he's unsure about his next statement. Take a look.
Anybody?
well, what China's done to us is, well, maybe you do the world.
Let's look at that again slowly. Note the shoulder as it goes up. Okay, so once again, these are things that we look for just to determine how somebody is feeling. In this situation, I would have asked him a few more questions. Why? Because when I see a red flag like that, a deviation from his normal behavior, I want to go deeper and find out what he really means.
Have you made any mistakes in this campaign? You had said publicly you thought the retweet about Heidi Cruz was a mistake.
Okay, now as we watch him respond about Heidi Cruz, what I want you to be doing is watching not only his eye movements, but in addition to that, notice how he starts to rock back and forth. He's swaying in his chair. Once again, you'll see that there's a deviation from his normal behavior. He also phrases his words very carefully, so you'll hear him say the word actually. Let's take a look.
Let me just...
Well, I said I could have done without it, to be exact. I mean, I could have done without it.
You said a mistake. Are you walking that back?
No, I'm not walking it back, but I actually didn't say it that way. I said...
Okay, so we heard the word actually, which is a word that helps people believe something more so than it's true. So when someone uses the word actually, what they're trying to do is take away what you said and make them believe what they're saying. In addition, if you note the rocking back and forth, once again, you see this is nervous energy that's leaking out of him because he can't use these big gestures while he's sitting there. In addition, he looks off to the right, again, a deviation from his norm. Now, we know that he actually did say he made a mistake to Maureen Dowd, the New York Times columnist. So the question here becomes, Is he being deceptive as we see him rocking back and forth, as we see him make a different level of eye contact, and as he's talking to Megan and doesn't really look directly at her face? Or is it more because he's trying to remember what he says? Now, here are the questions, and these are why they're red flags, and we don't know for sure if there's deception going on. We would need to see more of his body, which we can't see. He's hiding most of it. So the question is, you dig deeper, but we already know the truth. He actually said, I made a mistake. So let's keep going and see where else Donald makes mistakes.
I could have done without it. I mean,
But it was a mistake, wasn't it? I mean, that you shouldn't have done that,
I wish
right?
I didn't do it. Although, I guess you could say she's fair game because she's very much involved with the campaign. But I don't know. She just seems like a nice woman.
Over the next few seconds, I want you to be listening because once again, we're learning some of Donald Trump's habits. So he employs verbal tactics that are manipulative, but they're very natural for him. So one of the things he does is he uses catchphrases that are unique and they anchor the thought into somebody's mind. So we hear, lying Ted, little Marco, heartless Hillary. These are all little catchphrases that stick with us and they anchor that thought each and every time we see that candidate. In addition, he tends to repeat himself over and over again. And one of the things we know from basic psychology is that repetition tends to prime someone to believe you. So you'll hear him, in the next few seconds, repeat himself 3 times within a 10-second clip. And this is because his goal is to make sure you believe it, whether it's true or not. So let's take a listen.
Well, you know what? I have millions of followers at Real Donald Trump. I have millions of followers. I have millions of
I'm familiar.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so 3 times he's telling us he has millions of followers. You don't need to repeat that 3 times within that short of a time frame, but it's a very good manipulative tactic to use, and he does it very well. Okay, let's keep going.
The thing that gets me in trouble is retweets. The retweet is really more of a killer than the tweets. The tweets I seem to do pretty well with.
Next, we're going to get into the portion where they discuss the retweets. Once again, look at Donald's deviations. Number 1, you'll see an eyelash flutter, and that eyelash flutter is indicative of mental arousal. It means he's trying to think of something quickly. In addition to that, once again, we see he looks to his right. He does 2 different things at this point. He shrugs his shoulders, and then he does an upwards palm gesture. The reason I'm prefacing it with this is because these are all deviations from his normal behavior, and I'm going to tell you why as soon as the clip is finished.
So that's one, the Heidi Cruz thing. Let me just give you a list of a couple and tell me whether you have any regrets on it. The comment about John McCain, you prefer people who weren't captured.
See the flutter?
The comment about Carly Fiorina's face. But do you regret any of those comments?
Swaying, grimace?
Yeah, I guess so, but you have to go
An
forward.
upward palm.
You make a mistake, you go forward, and you can correct the mistake, but...
Why do I love that portion? Because this is Donald being honest, okay? He sees that he's in a bad spot. The eyelashes flutter. Tells you he's feeling the pressure. Finally, we see him feeling the pressure, right? So in other words, Megyn Kelly actually did get under his skin. In addition to that, he looks to his right because he's trying to think, should I say something different or should I just stick with the truth? Then you notice he does, well, I don't really know. When you see somebody do a turtle shrug, their shoulders go up simultaneously, you know that tells us non-verbally that somebody doesn't believe in their own statement. While he's saying this, however, he says, well, I don't really know. So the interesting thing is he's being completely congruent and completely honest. Finally, we see the upward palms gesture. Again, you don't see this too often with him, but this is a gesture that people give you when they're trying to be honest. They want you to believe them. So everything in this clip was Donald being truthful. And that's something I don't see that often, so I was happy to report it. Let's keep going.
To look back and say, gee whiz, I wish I didn't do this or that, I don't think that's good. I don't even think, in a certain way, I don't even think that's healthy.
I want to talk a little bit about your family.
Here, Megyn Kelly is about to ask Donald Trump about his older brother who was an alcoholic. And the interesting thing is, once again, you see that Donald feels it. It's a visceral reaction. So what I want you to look for are 2 things. Number 1, you're going to see him, he's in the slump position because he's trying to engage, but you're going to see him sit up. In addition, you're going to see him do a hard swallow. That's also indicative of somebody who's feeling pressure. So things we don't usually see from him are suddenly seeping out because it's hit a hard point in his life.
Fred Jr. was an alcoholic and died at a relatively young age.
See?
When I
Change?
see his name, what does that bring up
The
for
hard
you?
swallow.
Well, he was great. He was the most handsome person. He was.
Donald always goes back to looks. This is very important in his world. So he just got hit. It was a visceral reaction. We saw it, the hard swallow, the change in posture. What does he automatically do, though? He goes back to what he knows. His first sentence is, he was a good-looking person. He was a great-looking person. So recognize he was hit, took it, and then went right back into Donald Trump mode. Okay.
I have other problems, okay? But
What are they? Get specific.
I don't want to talk to you about that. That I can't talk about. That would be too good.
In the next clip, we're going to hear Megyn Kelly ask Donald Trump about his past divorces. What I want you to be looking for is eye closure, extended eye closure, looking off to the right. In addition to that, watch his face. You can literally see this muscle right here, which is called the mentalis muscle. You could see it dimple up, and this is a grimace face. And you could see this is a face of remorse and regret.
You've been divorced twice.
Yes.
So here we have a face of regret. This right here is a mentalis muscle. When you see it all dimpled like that, and note how his mouth goes downward, again, now he's looking off to the left. We can see this is a man who feels remorse and regret. Maybe not because he's been divorced, but maybe because he's being asked about the divorce. We don't know. Either way, this is a true expression for him. And again, it's nice to see honesty coming through non-verbally.
Most kids between the ages of 6 and 16 have been bullied at some point in their lives. Were you ever bullied?
No, I wasn't. But I have seen bullying, and bullying doesn't have to just be as a child. I mean, I know people are bullied when they're 55 years old.
It can happen when you're 45.
It's, you know, it happens, right?
When people are being honest, there's an actual reaction that happens throughout the body. So someone will feel an emotion, and then they'll act on the emotion, and then they'll speak the emotion. And if it's not in that order, you have to recognize there's a chance it's a pre-planned thought. So now we're looking at Donald Trump and Megyn Kelly talking about bullying. And I want you to watch how Donald reacts. Once again, we're going to see him feel it, show it, and then speak it. And that's how you know he's being congruent and honest in this next clip.
I'm responding. Now, I then respond times maybe 10. I don't know. I mean, I respond pretty strongly. But in just about all cases, I've been responding to what they did to me.
See how he says that? I've been responding to what they've done to me. He's already has his hands pointed towards him before he even says the words. This is how you know it's genuine. He's feeling it inside before he's speaking the words. So once again, kudos to Donald for being honest and forthright. Even though we know he's a bully, he doesn't acknowledge it.
Let's talk about us.
Okay.
In a few seconds, we're going to hear Donald Trump telling Megyn Kelly he doesn't really blame her for not being fair or nice to him. Now, this wouldn't be anything exciting, but again, we see something that we don't normally see from Donald. I want you to watch his tongue. His tongue is going to come out of his mouth for a second. And when you see that tongue thrust, you realize someone is feeling disgust about what they're about to say. So let's just watch this quickly.
I don't really blame you because you're doing your thing. But from my standpoint, I don't have to like it.
Afterward, you said you didn't feel that the moderators had been nice. But do you think it's the journalist's role to be nice to presidential candidates at a debate?
No, fair. I don't care if they're nice. They have to
You
be
use the
fair.
word nice.
Well, okay.
Okay. So people thrust their tongues out for all different kinds of reasons, right? Quite often it's because your lips are dry. But if your lips are dry, typically you swipe, okay? Otherwise, it's typically known as a disgust gesture. So as he's sticking his tongue out here, we can tell, based on the fact that he's looking to his left, so he's being honest, that this was a question he didn't like to answer. We don't see him stick his tongue out. So when we do, you have to take note of it.
I want to talk for a minute about the tweeting.
Okay.
The conversation is now turning back to tweets. And the things I want you to look for during this next clip are disgust on Donald Trump's face, and you see disgust in the nose area. So I want you to watch as he kind of snips up his nose in disgust, and then a few seconds later, I want you to be watching for him to close his body language. Once again, Donald Trump never closes his body language, so he's putting up a barrier about this question. So I want you to take a watch.
Set the scene for me, because I know where I was when I was on the receiving end of a lot of those tweets, but I've always wondered where you were. I'm picturing like a crushed velvet smoking jacket, you know, chaise lounge.
Just to give you a clue, this is what disgust looks like. So as you look at Donald, note the lines in his nose. That's the expression that you look for when somebody's telling you that they're disgusted with you. We saw the tongue earlier. That's another indication. But here, when you see this look with the nose all scrunched up, for sure. He's just been told that Megyn Kelly thinks of him as sitting on a chaise lounge in a red crushed velvet jacket, and he signals disgust.
Through it. You said it's you if it's past 7 in the evening.
This weekend, I picked up 114,000 people.
Well, what do you do? Do you pick up your iPhone and actually tweet yourself?
Usually after 7 or 8 o'clock, I'll do it myself. But during the day...
All right, so this is another interesting posture that I mentioned earlier. We don't normally see Donald close up his body language. This is a very defensive posture. Now, people say to me all the time, sometimes I'm just comfortable in this posture, and that's great. The problem is the person you're talking to, in this situation, Megyn Kelly, doesn't recognize it as a comfort gesture. They recognize it that you're closing off. In addition to that, in this situation, it is a close off. We know Donald's putting up a barrier because this is a conversation he's not comfortable having. Okay, so he's going to open up again because it's almost like a light goes on and he goes back into self-awareness mode. So we'll see he opens up. But an interesting dynamic is to see Donald Trump, of all people, closing off his body language.
I have fans.
In the next clip, we're going to hear Donald talk about his fans. And one of the things I want you to be watching for is how he shakes his head. He negates. So when you're talking about something positive, normally we go up and down. In this situation, he's talking about his unbelievable fans and the bond that he has with them, yet he shakes his head no. So the question becomes, does he really not feel that he has that bond? Let's take a look.
But when you and I were having our little difficulty, you probably had some pretty nasty tweets sent your way. I don't want to say, but I've heard that. I don't want that to happen, but I have fans, they really love, we have an unbelievable bond.
Okay, right there. Did you see it? It was quick. It wasn't small, which is usually a bigger indicator of deception, but it was obvious. So when you shake your head no, you're negating your statement. That's a question mark. That's a red flag. Now we're going to see Megyn Kelly and Donald Trump share a monumentally uncomfortable moment as they discuss the bimbo comment.
Yeah, but not the more nasty ones. You would be amazed at the ones I don't retweet.
Bimbo?
Well, there was a retweet. Yeah, did I say that?
Many times.
Ooh, okay.
First note. Retweet? That was a retweet. Did I say that? Many times. You note right off the bat, he knows he said it because he claims it was a retweet. But then he backpedals and goes, oh, did I say that? And Megyn Kelly, being the victim of that bimbo comment, has to say yes many times. So starts off uncomfortable.
Excuse me.
Okay, once again, quick sway of the chair, getting rid of that excess energy. And then you see the little coy smile? Excuse me. This little boy comes out in Donald Trump. Once again, something we don't normally see, but he does recognize he's in the hot seat at this point. Megyn Kelly is trying her best to give a sincere smile, but she's not. She's feeling it too. This is a really uncomfortable situation, a really uncomfortable question, and that's not a genuine smile.
What do you think
Not the most horrible thing, again, politically, not the most. Over your life, Megyn, you've been called a lot worse. Is that right? Wouldn't you say,
You've been called a lot worse. Does that really matter? He's a presidential candidate who just called or retweeted Megyn Kelly, one of the debate moderators, a bimbo. So again, this just makes for the climax to be even worse when they have to re-engage a conversation and try to get back to a comfortable position. Look at her face right there. See how her mouth is pointing in the downward position? You could tell this question, the answer, caused grief.
You've had a life that's not been that easy, and
it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about the messaging.
As she tries to say, it's not about me, it's not about me. Note she's looking off. So she is feeling like it's about her because she doesn't take her eyes back until she recomposes herself, and that's when she reconnects with eye contact with Donald Trump. As we close out this very interesting interview, Megyn Kelly is going to say, are you going to keep doing that or are you going to stop? Donald Trump is going to use two words. The first word is now, and the second word is think. I want you to watch it, listen to it, and then I'll tell you what it means.
But, it's a modern day form of fighting back. I mean, it really is. But,
you going to stop that as president?
Well, I'm going to stop it about you now.
Always remember, words are powerful. The word now is one of the most powerful words, and that's because of childhood memories, which is for another segment. In this case, what I want you to realize is Donald's saying he's going to stop it now. That doesn't mean he's going to stop it in the future. Okay? Keep that in mind as we go when we listen to the rest of the sentence.
I think I like our relationship right now.
I think I like our relationship right now. What he's doing is he's already giving you a qualifier. It's an if-then. If we continue on this path, I'm going to stop. But if you bother me again, well, then I have no choice. And that's not the actual verbal statement, but that's the undercurrent of the words he's just spoken.
So I'm certainly not going to do it with you. Yeah, I think
Now
so.
you have my...
Finally, I'm certainly not going to do it with you. This is one of his really powerful punches. When he doesn't feel like the last sentence or the last few words of his sentence need to be powerful, he'll trail off quickly and his voice will go low. I'll no longer do it with you. Because he doesn't really mean it. If he meant it, he would say, I'm never going to do it with you again, and it would be powerful and it would end on a powerful pitch. Here, he trails off, his voice goes down.
I don't have the time. You know, when was the last time I watched a baseball game? I'm watching you all the time, okay?
I knew it!
And now, here we are with the closing of the interview, the lightest part of the interview. Trump is specifically asked, you didn't really boycott Fox, did you? Not only does he admit that he lies, but my question is, do the viewers even hear that he admits it? Listen.
Be honest.
I'm watching. I have to.
You didn't really boycott.
A little bit, not as much as I want people to believe.
Not as much as I want people to believe. That one sentence will get slipped under the radar because the conversation is now jovial and fun. But that sentence is important. So please, next time you're watching, keep all these little tidbits in mind. Donald Trump is telling you everything he feels, non-verbally and verbally. At times, we just stop listening.